Surprise! Jess, my fun-loving twin sister. Why couldn't she let me study? I said, I have exams, Jess. I don't have time for this. She said, it wouldn't hurt to have a little fun. Some of us actually have to study to get scholarships and don't have daddy to pay for everything. Oh, you think my life is so easy? Try walking a mile in my shoes, why don't you? How hard could her life be? She has everything. She lived with our rich dad and his wife, while I lived with our mom. I had to work an entire summer to buy a bike and shopped at the thrift store. I said, you know what? I think I'd like to walk in your Prada shoes very much. Hi, I'm Erica. I have a twin who is prettier, more popular, and richer than me. Or so I thought before we switched places. Here's my story. The next day, Jessica told Mom that she was taking me out for a birthday treat and dragged me to the salon. She got my hair dyed just like hers. I was kinda loving the blonde. When we got home, Mom gasped. She couldn't tell us apart. Mission accomplished. As the limo pulled up outside the house to take me to my new life, I grabbed all the stuff I needed from my room and kissed Mom goodbye. She gasped and hugged me tight. She said, this is the first time you've kissed me in years. Rookie mistake. I finally got into the limo and drove towards my new place. My jaw dropped when I saw my dad's huge mansion. My whole house could fit in the yard. The butler welcomed me. Fancy. I was nervous about talking to Dad. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. But the butler told me he was away on a business trip. Only Madam was home. The house was like a maze. I was roaming around trying to find my room when I bumped into someone. She said, shouldn't you be in school? I turned around to see her, the dreaded stepmom. Did your good-for-nothing mom rub off on you? She thought I was Jess, of course. But who was she to say anything about my mom? I was furious, but I kept my mouth shut and walked away, looking for Jess's room. Man, how does this girl walk in heels all the time? Before heading off to school, I looked in the mirror and told myself, I can do this. The game was on. As soon as I saw my boarding school, I was shook. If I thought the house was amazing, the school was breathtaking. I felt like I was in Hogwarts. As I walked through the grounds to the dorm, I smiled and nodded to the dozens of people who were waving and smiling at me. Wow, for a pain in the neck, Jess sure was popular. I unlocked the door to my room, but was shocked to see there were 2 beds and a bunch of some other girl's stuff. Great. Jess hadn't even told me she shared a room with someone. Just then, a spunky girl walked in and gave me a bear hug. Thank God you're back. This place was so dull without you. So this was my roommate, and I didn't even know her name. And boy, was she like a radio station that you just couldn't turn off. She wanted to know everything about everything. Tell me about your poor shabby sister. As much as I wanted to tell her that I was the prettier and smarter twin, I held back. Don't even get me started. She was such a party pooper. My roommate seemed to buy my Jess imitation, and I was about to unpack when this handsome guy walked in. He had the most chiseled jaw I'd ever seen. He walked straight up to me and pulled me close. He said, babe, I missed you. Had Jess actually forgotten to tell me she had a boyfriend? I said, whoa, slow down. Whoa there yourself. Can a guy kiss his girlfriend now? I have some travel germs. I feel icky. I quickly grabbed my stuff and headed to the shower. I needed to stay away from this guy. Over the next few days, I tried to fit in and not look like a fool, which is really hard when you don't even know anyone's name. I found a copy of the school magazine and tried to learn everyone's names and faces from our class picture. I saw my roommate reading the latest edition of my favorite magazine, Sky and Telescope. Oh my God, I've been meaning to read this. Since when do you read anything besides beauty magazines? Geez, Jess, why you gotta be so dumb? I also tried really hard to make sure I was never alone with Matt. Luckily, he had a lot of friends and was always surrounded by them. There was one in particular that I really didn't like, Remy. She was always hanging around Matt and always had some insulting remark to throw my way. I was walking down the corridor one day when Remy stepped in front of me along with her clan. I said, move out of my way. Remy said, or what? You're gonna go cry to daddy? I didn't know what her deal was, but I wasn't gonna stand around listening to her. I'd just walked a few steps when her expression changed. You chose to mess with the wrong girl today. Get lost or else. Please don't hurt me. You can have all my allowance. What? What's going on here? I froze. It was the headmistress. Remy said, She was forcing me to give her all my money. I started to argue, but the woman was on a mission and wouldn't hear a word. The semester has barely begun and you're already making trouble. You will not be allowed to leave the school premises for 1 week. That was so unfair. I went to my room and took out my diary to vent. I couldn't wait to talk to Jess and ask what the deal with Remy and the principal was. Clearly, they both hated her. Writing about me, gorgeous? I jumped up on my seat and quickly closed my diary. I could feel my heart racing. Matt was just so close to me, and he smelled so good. And he had such tempting lips. And he's your sister's boyfriend, idiot. I didn't think it was possible, but you came back even more beautiful than before. Oh my God, Matt thought I was more beautiful than Jess. I was so lost in his blue eyes that when he leaned in, I didn't stop him. I felt so guilty, but I couldn't help it. He was just so perfect, just like Jess's life. He said, I heard about what happened with Remy, and yeah, I know we'll miss our weekend trip, but I'm gonna be here the whole time. We'll still have fun. My stomach did a somersault. This was even more perfect. I told him I was looking forward to it as he left for basketball practice. I couldn't stop thinking about the next time I would get to kiss him. Just then, a few girls barged in. One of them said, Jess, you promised us a helicopter ride on your birthday. I said, but my birthday was 2 months ago. She said, Earth to Jess, you celebrate it every month. Of course she does. I'm just messing with you guys. I have it all planned out. Why couldn't Jess have said a trip to the museum or a cruise? I have such a fear of heights. How was I gonna pull this off? Jess had told me to call the butler in case of any emergency, and this definitely was one. He said he'd arrange everything and have a limo pick up my friends and I the next afternoon. The next day, as we were all getting ready to head out, the headmistress showed up. She said, Where do you think you're going? I said, Out? Dream on, sweetheart. In my school, you follow my rules. And I say, you can't go. Just then, the limo pulled up and the driver handed me an envelope. I believe this is for you. It was a letter from my dad allowing me to go out for the weekend. I got such a kick out of seeing her turn pale. She turned around and stormed back inside. The ride to the helipad was full of excitement and giggles. Everyone was going on and on about how awesome the ride was, while I didn't look down once and tried not to throw up. After the helicopter ride, I treated the girls to a fancy dinner at the hottest new restaurant in town. Whoever said money couldn't buy happiness didn't know where to shop. It was the least Daddy Dearest could do for me. When I got back, Matt was waiting for me. My heart skipped a beat whenever I saw him. There's my favorite girl. I miss you when you're not around. He said he had promised me a fun weekend and he was a man of his word. He led me up to the rooftop and I was speechless when I saw everything he'd arranged. This could not have been more perfect. Oh boy, I was in trouble. He spun me around and said he had a surprise for me. I gasped when I saw the necklace he'd put around my neck. It had our initials on it. Well, not mine, actually. He looked deep into my eyes and said, Something about you feels really different, Jess. Good different. Like we might actually make things work this time. What was he talking about? He was about to kiss me when someone totally ruined the moment. You really need to raise your standards, Matt. What was Remy doing crashing my date? It was time to show her who Matt really belonged to. I grabbed him by the face and kissed him. She slammed the door. and left. Remy 0, Erica 1. I got a call from Jess later that night, and I really didn't want to talk to her. What was I supposed to say? Hey sis, kissed your hunky boyfriend twice. Reluctantly, I went to the phone booth. She said, how's it going, sister? I gave some vague answers and asked her instead about how badly she'd been messing up my grades. I'm not as dumb as you think I am, twit. I said, well, your reputation here says otherwise. Also, what's the deal with Remy and the principal? Oh, Remy's just jealous. And don't get me started on that crazy woman. She just hates everyone. But we're smart and always find a way to have fun. Time's up, princess. I turned around to see the crazy woman standing behind me. I cut the call and walked away, leaving the receiver hanging. She wasn't the boss of me. The next morning, Remy barged into my room without even knocking. How dare she? What do you think you're still doing in bed? I need you down at the lacrosse field, now! And with that, she just walked out. I said to my roommate, is she crazy? What is she even talking about? Jess, the lacrosse match? You play for the team, remember? Did you hit your head last night? Oh my God. I talked to Jess last night and she couldn't be bothered to tell me? I'd never played a sport in my life. How was I supposed to fake this? I made my way to the sports field to see Remy barking orders at the whole team. Of course she's the captain. Suddenly, I felt Matt pull me in and kiss me on the cheek. He said, right on time to cheer my star player on. Break a leg. That might actually happen. No amount of luck was going to get me through this. I was terrified out on the field. I really had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. Remy looked like she was about to kill me. Just then, a girl bumped into me out of nowhere and I fell face forward on the ground. There was a timeout and I was carried off the field. Hey, you okay, babe? What's going on with you today? I told everyone I was just having an off day and I'd like to sit this one out. Luckily, with me out of the game, we actually won. I said, woohoo, let's party Jess style. I had to throw the party of my life to make everyone forget about this horrible morning. There were so many cute guys at the party, but I only had eyes for Matt. He was hanging out with his teammates, and when he smiled at me, I felt weak in the knees. I saw Remy walk up to him and put her hand on his arm. Why was she touching my boyfriend? Okay, not mine, Jess's. She was all over him, and I saw him shrugging her hand off his arm more gently. But man, she was persistent. But I did something stupid because I was super angry. I grabbed one of the jocks and started dancing with him. I looked over to see if Matt was looking at me. Instead, I saw Remy giving me an evil smile. She whispered something in his ear and moved aside. He looked at me for a minute, his eyes full of anger, and then he stormed out. Well, I wanted to make him a bit jealous, but I hadn't expected that. I turned to my roommate. Why'd Matt leave like that when he saw me dancing with that guy? He was just dancing with Remy. Well, if you dance with a guy he caught you making out with last summer, what else do you expect? What? Jess, you moron. I rushed out to him. Matt, give me a chance to explain. He said, there's nothing to explain. I thought you'd change, but I was wrong. You're the same selfish person. We're done. How I wanted to wrap my arms around him and tell him I was different, but I just stood there watching my McDreamy walk away. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to get out of bed or eat anything. I was heartbroken. Some of the girls came by and were begging me to take them shopping. Were they blind? How can you guys be so insensitive? My boyfriend just broke up with me. With a whatever, they just filed out of my room. I realized the girls didn't care about Jess at all and were only using her for her money. Everyone was so fake in this place. For the first time, I felt sorry for her. Thanks to Remy, I had no permission to go out and no boyfriend to spend time with. Matt was still avoiding me and it broke my heart. I spent any free time moping around my room and watching this awesome YouTube channel, My Story Animated. My roommate had introduced it to me, and I was hooked. As the mids drew near, I started studying harder. Maybe I'd get just good grades for a change. The day before the first exam, I heard loud noises outside. Just as I was about to go check, someone barged into my room. I was surprised to see the headmistress. What now? She said, search her room. I know it's here. Only someone as rotten as her would do something so despicable. She screamed at me that Remy's diamond necklace, which was a family heirloom, had gone missing and all the rooms were being searched. Knock yourself out. You're not finding anything here. But 2 minutes later, my jaw dropped when I saw the headmistress pull the necklace out of my jewelry box. That weasel. I knew it. You think you're too good for this school? We'll see about that. I rang up Jess and cried because I was dreading about what would happen the next day. And sure enough, first thing in the morning, I was told my parents were here and I had to go to the principal's office. I was seeing my dad for the first time. In years, and he looked really disappointed. My stepmom, however, had such a smug look. I tried to explain that I had no idea how the necklace ended up in my room. Despite all my pleading, I was suspended from school. My dad didn't even defend me and said that this should teach me a lesson this time. As I walked to the car, I saw Matt watching me leave, looking disappointed. This is not how I'd wanted to meet Dad. Just as we were about to get in the car, I saw Matt running towards us. He said, "Stop. Wait, Matt? I just heard Remy talking to her friends about how she planted the necklace in your room so that the brat would finally be out of the picture." I knew it. My dad said, "I was having a really hard time believing my Jess would steal anything." Jess very suddenly walked in. Matt said, "What the?" Dad said, "Erica, what are you doing here?" Jessica said, "No, Dad, I'm Jess. Erica has been taking my place for the past month. We switched." Dad pulled me in for a hug. I'd waited 10 years for this. He said he'd realized how wrong he had been to leave me out of his life and was really sorry. Jessica said, "Yeah, and Dad, Erica's a genius, and she works so hard. It's been really tough being her all these weeks. She really deserves to go to a good college." "How about we start with getting you both through high school?" my dad said. Matt then said, "Hold on a sec. Who have I been seeing for the past month?" We turned around to look at a completely baffled Matt. Jess said, "Hey, Maddie, that would be my sister Erica. I've kind of found someone else. You know how things were when I left." I took Matt's hands in mine. "Matt, you were right. I was different. I am different. I fell in love with you the first time I saw you a month ago, and I would never choose anyone over you." He just stood there and turned to walk away, but then he grabbed me by the hand and pulled me in for the most magical kiss ever. Get a room, you two.